Oops, I forgot to put myself in the stream. There I am. Hi, guys. Thank you for being here today. Happy Saturday, happy 4th of July weekend if you're in the United States. And I found out today is World UFO Day. So happy World UFO Day to those who celebrate. How's it going tonight? Hey, Jen Hex, Godfather J6, Crypto Journeyman, Bearded Saint. Nice to see you guys here today. Bearded Saint, is this your first time? I feel like I haven't seen you in the stream before. And feel like my voice and my face, my movements aren't lining up, but I don't know, maybe close enough. So, hey, Drix, nice to see you guys. Insidious Tomaz, Hex Cowboy, My Online Ghost. We got a great room here tonight. Mango Junkie, oi, oi. So fun to see you guys tonight. And I have been digging into CERN. And oh my gosh, like this could be a multi-part thing. It's really like complete insanity. You can just keep digging and digging and digging. I don't even know where to start. And I'm gonna fix this corner because it's taking me off. Yes, I did say that the word off like I'm from the Northeast. There we go. All righty. So yeah, no, I mean, I think this CERN stuff is interesting, and it was fun because like I had to dig a little bit into particle physics, and I taught biology. I didn't teach physics, so I'm like I had to break it down. And of course, because I'm a psycho and my bookshelf is completely random, I just so happen to have 30-second quantum theory on there to help me. So I had a fun time researching that. But let me see. Let's see what's going on in the chat before we get started. Yeah, man, as we start digging into CERN, all that stuff is going to start coming up, man. And I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface with the info that I have in there. So we'll see how that goes. Why do I feel like I'm delayed? It's ticking me off. I don't know, but close enough. Anyway. All right, I'm going to start off at the top. Yes, happy World UFO Day. So you've forgotten to hit go live so many times. Well, you know what I did? I hit go live, but I forgot to like actually put myself into the box, the add to stream button. But I'm here now. I made my way in here. Oh, cool. So they are in sync with each other. Thank you so much. Because as I'm looking at this screen, back and forth, just everything looks weird. So I'm glad it's working out at all. So thank you so much for letting me know that. So yeah, who wants some coffee? I won't rant, but I have a theory that the way we pronounce things in the Northeast is actually the proper pronunciation, the proper phonics of things, but I'll save that for another time. Okay, but I will say, how do we say it here? Coffee? To me, that sounds normal. Off coffee. But like, what is the proper way to say it with the neutral American accent? Coffee? But that doesn't sound right because the O then sounds like an A. But all right, I'll leave it there. I won't dissect it too much. So CERN. So CERN, the big particle accelerator complex, that whole physics complex over in Switzerland, it is starting up for run 3 of the Large Hadron Collider on July 5th. So a lot of people are talking about it. You've probably seen that in your Twitter feed where people are like, we need to keep our energy up, to fight, I guess, dark forces and whatever. Don't drink too much on July 4th. We need to be strong and ready for whatever happens on July 5th. So all that talk that you've seen on Twitter like that is about CERN and what's happening at CERN. So right? Yeah. So it's water. I don't even know how to say water now. See, I'm way too easily distracted. I love the chat. So you live 5 miles from one of the facilities in the United States too. Yeah, so there are particle acceleration facilities all over the world. So the one that's in Switzerland is like the biggest one in the world, and it's like a multinational thing that has come all together, and it's even linked to the UN, which I think is a little sus. Hey, it is now. Thank you for being here tonight. So CERN, people have always been wary of the particle accelerator and what happens there. And, when it first opened, I want to say about 10 years ago or almost 10 years ago, people are like, no, 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 no. When you start colliding particles, you have the potential to create black holes and you can destroy the earth. And even Stephen Hawking issued a warning, and they did it and everything was fine. Or so it seems. There's some theories that it's not fine. We'll talk about that later. But just from science perspective, oh cool, like discoveries were made. They ran the Hadron Collider. Let's keep running it again. They run it for run 2 and everything was fine. So now it's been offline for a few years so that they can like really upgrade it. Now run 3 is happening. And run 3 is going to be the record-setting highest collision energy ever happening, which is a little concerning. And you'll see why. So so CERN, let's just start out with just the history of CERN. So CERN is the European Organization for Nuclear Research. It's supposedly called CERN because that's like based on the French name for it. And it's the largest particle physics laboratory in the world. So just like we had said before, Insidious Thomas said, we also have them here in the United States. So it's not unique to Switzerland, but the largest one in the world is in Switzerland. And the thing that jumps out to me that makes me go, which makes me even more suspicious of it, is that CERN is an official UN observer. So we know in the UN, there's different countries that all, participate in the General Assembly. But apparently, UN has observer status where different entities and organizations can come in and participate on a very limited basis in the UN General Assembly. And so CERN is one of those organizations that is an official UN observer, which made me stop for a second, because if you're like me, the UN is up to no good. And so the fact that CERN is an official part of it, makes me kind of take a step away and, go, okay, this just confirms more of my suspicions. So CERN is not just in Switzerland. So you're saying CERN is all over the world, or the particle accelerators are all over the world. But the big CERN facility that we're going to talk about, the Large Hadron Collider, is in Switzerland, kind of like on the France border. So Vision Null, thank you for being here. I feel like I haven't seen you for a while. And thank you for coming again, TV Bishop. So so the Large Hadron Collider is just one part of this whole complex. So it's a whole complex full of like particle and nuclear facilities. So this it came out of nuclear development, in the 40s. This is kind of the evolution of it and the extension of it. So they also have nuclear programs going on there because, it all comes together, like particle physics, atomic physics. It's all kind of in the same family. Oh, okay. I got what you're saying. It crosses the Swiss borders. Well, I guess it's massive. So then because I know it was on the France border. So then it crosses into France. Thank you for that correction. Okay. So it's in Switzerland and crossing into France. And then, like we said, it's a multinational thing. Like, it's kind of like a UN of science. A ton of different countries are all participating in it, kind of like the International Space Station. So hi, Flat Earth Underground. Thank you for coming. So it was designed and okay, so I'm going to get into the theories. I just wanted to lay down the groundwork. So the Large Hadron Collider, which is the one that makes everybody really nervous, it was designed to discover and measure the Higgs boson particle, which they call the God particle. And up until 2012, they weren't even sure, they'd never had proof that it existed. And then in 2012, through the collisions, they discovered that it existed. And forgive my simplification or, weirdness of my explanation in all this. Physical sciences were never my thing. I was more into the life sciences, so I'm trying my best. So the Large Hadron Collider, in it, you have protons and electrons, and they are traveling at near light speed, and they are colliding. And you get tens of millions of collisions every second happening. And by doing that, they're attempting to recreate the first seconds of the universe through it. So in 2012, they discovered the Higgs boson, this is all a mouthful, Higgs boson particle, which, was believed to be the particle that triggered the Big Bang. So they actually found it through these collisions. And exactly, yeah, each facility there in CERN has its own focus in scientific research. So, there's different colliders, there's different nuclear facilities, there's a bunch of different things going on. But, the Hadron Colliders, I think, well, the freakiest thing that we know of that's happening there, who knows what else is in that facility. So yeah, you just know about the existence of the facility and some of the scientists that work there. So, and I'm like, this is what they're telling us. What else is going on there that, that they're not telling us about? So that always makes me wonder. So, and the interesting thing is, okay, because you're having tens of millions of collisions a second, you need like a way to share that information and to process it. So CERN is supposedly the group that like invented the internet so that they were able to share this information. And interestingly, what they're doing now is they are creating something that they call the grid. So a network of computers all around the world that are working together as almost like, and forgive the explanation, I'm not, very knowledgeable in computers, but they'll all work together to provide more processing power to be able to kind of process this information. So they're working together as like one big supercomputer. So you're using computers around the world for their storage and to process this information. So I'm like, okay, so CERN basically, besides doing all this collision stuff, is also working together to make this worldwide supercomputer. So to me, that gets freakier because, supercomputers are cool, but there's a lot of bad that can go on with it. There's a lot of evil that can be used for it. So, so basically, okay, so we got that, right? So I think that kind of lays the groundwork. This is where things start getting weird. So when CERN opened, I forget what year it was, 8-10 years ago, they, against a lot of people warning them, they went ahead and they started making all the collisions in there. And then interestingly, 10 days after the collision started, a photographer named Christoph Flores, he posted pictures of the skies over CERN. And because all of a sudden there were really freaky looking cloud formations over CERN that I guess, had never been seen there before, or like, the photographer had never seen cloud formations, and they just happened to be over CERN. And interestingly, and it just happened to be 10 days after the Hadron Collider was turned on. So that made the world kind of, go, whoa, what's happening here? Yeah, exactly. It's scary to think about, that we're already at a place where computing and the internet is so powerful. And I think it might be a lot more powerful than we think, because there are a lot of forces at play that hide things from us. So think about that power that already exists. And now they're working toward doing something more powerful, which will actually link back to one of the theories of CERN later. So they're trying to hack the blockchain. Well, you know what? I guess that's the perk of being decentralized. No one will hack our blockchain. But it's creepy though, because if they are able to make some sort of supercomputer, like what kind of security things can you get through? Like blockchain, decentralized finance is able to kind of protect us from these or protect our finances from the powers that be. But then if they develop something so extreme and, and so powerful, then we kind of lose that control. So it's, I don't know, you can see a lot of the dark stuff that can come out of that. So, okay, you had never heard of the clouds. Yeah, I just heard about it for the first time today. And I wish I knew how to do slides on here, because there's a way you can show, and I haven't figured that out yet. But if you look up Christoph Flores and CERN, the images that he took at CERN, you'll see some odd looking cloud formations over CERN, which I'm like, why aren't we hearing more about this? But oh, thank you. That's quite a compliment. My parents paid for 5 years of braces, so thank you, Mom and Dad. Sorry, I'm getting lost in my comments. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. So, and it's such a fun topic to talk about. So like, all right, so we started off with the clouds, right? Beginning the clouds. Okay, that's kind of odd, right? And then now they've identified the Higgs boson particle. They were that's what they were aiming for initially, and now they found it. So now they're, besides doing more Higgs boson research, now they're kind of switching over to do other types of research. Dark matter. Now they want to focus on dark matter. And we know dark matter makes up about 95% of the universe, but we haven't been able to actually observe it. We're only able to observe the effects of it, which is why we believe it exists. So over there, they're like, okay, no, let's actually get some evidence of dark matter. Let's try to see what we can do with it. So they want to try to make like dark matter using the Higgs boson particles that have been created in the lab. And so my thought is, we know so little about dark matter besides, some of the effects of it we've observed. So is it really smart to go into a lab, take these Higgs boson, which are also, we've had a warning from Stephen Hawking about the Higgs boson particle, by the way. He said that it has the potential at higher energy levels to, this was his belief, to stabilize or destabilize. I forget what he said, but at a very high energy level, he believed the Higgs boson had the potential to destroy the entire universe, which, if you think about it, run 3 is now at a record collision rate. So it's record-breaking energy levels they're using in this experiment with the Higgs boson particles, which Stephen Hawking has warned us about. But the scientists are like, whatever, no, it's fine, it's safe, it'll never happen. So they're doing this, and then now they want to try to make dark matter using those particles that Stephen Hawking warned us about. Because we, like I said, know so little about dark matter, you wonder how smart that is. It seems reckless, and I understand that there's sometimes, a recklessness in science. There's a way to do things properly, but sometimes when you really want to jump in and discover something, people get a little reckless. And I understand that sometimes that's the nature of scientists and the way they work. But something like this, it just, you can potentially destroy the whole world. Doesn't seem smart. Okay, we're talking about ether. Oh, ether scan is down. Oh, that's weird. Oh, thank you. That's so nice of you. Yeah, YouTube makes it really hard. But that's kind of you to say. So the creation of dark matter is just, concerning. And I find it wild that, like, most people just go about their life and don't think about this type of stuff. Obviously everybody's worried about work and this and that and inflation or whatever. But when you start to look into the science that's going on around the world, it's wild to think that a lot of us, since we're into this, are aware of what's going on. But most people are walking around without a clue of how dangerous the things that are happening over there is. Like, I think also they're working with antimatter. And antimatter, so that's like, you have an electron. Electrons are negatively charged. Antimatter would be the opposite of that. So the opposite of a negatively charged electron would be a positron. And it's made when matter is made from energy. So when energy is converted into matter, I'm guessing, which is what happened in the Big Bang Theory, antimatter is made. But the thing with antimatter is when you combine antimatter, so if an electron and a positron hit, then it creates a massive amount of energy. So it's like the opposites. So the creation of energy into matter creates antimatter and matter. So they're like opposites, but when antimatter and matter collide, okay, that destroys the matter and it creates energy. And they've said that, like, very tiny, small amount of antimatter, if it were to collide with matter in New York City, it would destroy New York and Connecticut. And they have antimatter just hanging around, doing the lap in those those kilometer long circles at CERN, because there's tunnels that go around in a circle for, I think it's like 17 kilometers. And from what I've heard, there's antimatter going around in that circle. Very small amount, but they give it 17 kilometers hoping it doesn't collide with something. But if it does, then the destruction of whatever's in the area will be massive destruction. So, and I know the chances for that are low, but I'm like, why would you even take that risk? But that's what they're doing there. But yeah, and my stream took down Etherscan, right? All this talk of CERN, they know that we know, so they're hiding. They've gone into hiding. And there's a lot of Satanism and occults definitely attached to what's going on, and we're going to hit on that soon. So what we call antimatter surely is more than one thing. They're acting like it is one thing. And exactly what you think it meant. Sorry, I'm confused. I'm trying to understand now what's happening in the live. So it's one thing, what we call antimatter, surely more. Okay, so the scientists are acting like it's just the one thing, just the opposites of each other. You know what? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if because everything in science is constantly changing, and I guess all the scientists have to be open and flexible to whatever discoveries and what changes are going on. So I'm curious, do they know it's more than one thing and they're just pretending it's the one thing? Or we just haven't had confirmation yet that it's more than one thing? I don't know. A lot to think about. I'm enjoying all this this world of physical science. Not enough to go take a physics class, but I'm having fun. So all that together, the dark matter, the Higgs boson, it's leading to like an investigation of a potential fifth dimension. There's scientists that think there's a fifth dimension out there. And okay, so you're saying, yeah, bad intent, that they're not telling us for a reason. I think we're not told a lot. Yeah, and CERN seems so dark and satanic. It's so occult linked. There has to be so much going on that they're not telling us, and that their intentions are bad. Yeah, I understand it's for the sake of science, that study of antimatter. But if it's so dangerous, you could, thinking about how governments turn on people all the time, you could see the evil that it could be used for. Yeah. Gosh, can you imagine an antimatter bomb? If we said if there was a collision in New York City, it would take out New York and Connecticut. So the bottom half of New York and Connecticut, that from just that little bit of energy, it would be so much cheaper than a nuclear bomb, so much easier. You can smuggle it, you can do countless things in it. It would just be like the weapon of all weapons, that weapon to end all weapons. So maybe, yeah, so you're right. Maybe they're studying stuff over there, not to advance science, but to create a weapon. Yeah, scary stuff. Everything's so scary. This is angel and demon talk. So yeah, you know what? And I think this is definitely, there's some stuff out of Revelation that seems to speak to what's going on in CERN, which I have up here. I'll get to reading that in a moment. So there is a belief that there is a potential fifth dimension, and they want to explore it. And dark matter could be the way to explore this fifth dimension. But the problem is we can't get into this fifth dimension because we don't have enough energy. So what did they do? They shut down the Hadron Collider for 3 years. They upgraded it. Upgraded it. And now it's reopening for run 3 with record amounts of energy and collision energy happening. So that's convenient, right? Up in the energy, probably so they can get into and figure out the fifth dimension, which sounds like what? Sounds like Stranger Things. Sounds like the Upside Down, right? I haven't seen Doctor Strange. What is it? Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but there's a whole multiverse and parallel universes. So wouldn't that kind of also be like another dimension type thing? So there's some people that think that these shows like that are predictive programming. That's their way of getting our permission by putting out this programming, putting out these shows. And they think that, it's because they have this belief in like good karma or bad karma, that because they're showing us ahead of time, they're getting our permission and they'll have good karma and all this bad stuff that they want to do. So so now, so it shuts down every 3 years for upgrades. Every time it reopens, you have higher energy sources. So they just shut it, in 2 or 3 years, they're going to shut it down again, upgrade it, and go with even higher energy. So seems like they're trying to break into that fifth dimension, into the upside down. So you saw something the other week that talked about 10 dimensions. Yeah, I don't quite grasp the dimension thing. I'm like, are they trying to say there's multiple dimensions, parallel universes, or are they just trying to start at the fifth dimension, or do they believe there's only 5? I don't know, but from what I read, the fifth dimension right now is the aim of this. So what are some of the concerns with CERN? So we'll get to now. This is where it gets really, really crazy. So we've talked about Stephen Hawking, right? His warnings. I had briefly mentioned the black hole, that people were afraid of when it first started running. And now that we're entering into a time with higher collision energy, they think that also is upping the chances of a black hole. And scientists like to say, oh, you know what? It's not a big deal. Little tiny black holes come and go all the time throughout the universe. It's a normal thing in the universe. But people believe that the way that they're kind of purposely colliding things, the way that they're trying to simulate what the universe was like at the beginning of the Big Bang Theory, gives whatever black hole that opens a more dangerous potential. That it wouldn't be just like those tiny microscopic black holes that happen all over the universe that come and go. That this would be a black hole that would have a potential to grow and keep growing and devour the Earth from inside, and the whole Earth kind of falls into it. That's the belief that people have with the black holes that could happen there. Because really, we don't know how black holes form. So, if we're trying to mimic what happened at the Big Bang, how do we know that's not the right energy, the right conditions to form the black holes? And yes, technically we have an idea of how black holes form, but do we really know for sure? So those weird clouds that we talked about that happened on day 10 after the first run of CERN, people are like, well, that was at a lower energy. Now that we're at these massive energy levels happening in run 3, what if those weird, creepy looking clouds turn into some sort of storm? And if you've seen Stranger Things, like that storm that I think that was, I don't know, season 2, season 3 with the mind flare, right? Wasn't there always some sort of interdimensional storm happening? So there we go, back to predictive programming, or was somebody trying to warn us from Stranger Things? But people are thinking, okay, now if you're going to increase that energy level, maybe you'll have some crazy dimensional storm now happening over CERN. So I'm going. Gosh, like there's so many things. Sorry, I'm trying to get all my notes together in my head. Okay, another thought was vacuum decay. That I'm trying to figure out where to start with vacuum decay. But let's just leave it at vacuum decay. So it could potentially cause this vacuum decay, which could cause time and space to collapse. And we wouldn't see it coming. So it would just, all of a sudden, everything would be fine. The next minute, vacuum decay, everything's collapsed. And again, what the heck is wrong with these people? Like most normal people would be like, okay, let's not do anything to potentially trigger vacuum decay. But they're like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's see what happens. Or is that just a crazy conspiracy theory and they know that it's not going to happen, so they just keep going with it? I don't know. Unless if we vacuum decay, then this opens up the other dimensions and parallel universes. Like I can't even wrap my mind around where their heads are with this. But I guess that's what evil is, right? Thank you, Crypto Jack. Thank you. So you just finished Stranger Things. I got one more episode left, but as I'm like digging into this CERN stuff, like I'm like, okay, did the writers of Stranger Things study like all this CERN stuff and study particle physics and everything just to write the show? Or was somebody in there warning us about something, or just like telling us that this is going to happen? Because like as I'm going through this, as I'm trying to visualize it, like all the Stranger Things keeps coming into my head. Like it's just the perfect, I don't know, mental vision of all this. So CERN deals with time travel, maybe causing the Mandela effect and messing with the timelines or even fabric or reality like the last Spider-Man movie. I didn't see the last Spider-Man movie, but I wanted to because it had the amazing Spider-Man Andrew Garfield in there, who was my favorite Spider-Man. But yes, so thank you so much for bringing that up. That was something I had wanted to talk about tonight, and I forgot to write it on my list. So thank you so much, Crypto Jack. Yeah, so CERN, because of like these different ideas, one of the other concepts of it, so besides getting into the fifth dimension, is, opening up portals to other dimensions, like the upside down, or opening up dimensions into parallel universes. The whole idea of that we are in a multiverse, and there's other parallel universes existing outside of that, and they could be completely different, or they can be just variations of the universe we're in. So there's a whole multiverse theory, and I'm trying to remember if that's related to Schrodinger's cat or not. But so again, so keep in mind that parallel universe theory. So people believe that when CERN started, that we were potentially shifted into an alternate timeline, in an alternate universe, and we have no idea. So that something big did happen at CERN, but we didn't realize. But yet little things were changed. And the Mandela effect people believe is evidence of that. So if you're not familiar with the Mandela effect, it is the idea that things aren't like as we remember them. So some like take the Berenstain Bears, for example, that it's actually Berenstain Bears, but everybody remembers it always being Berenstain. And I might have this backwards. No. But basically, everybody's childhood memory is different than what it actually is. And the explanation, and most people would think, oh, I just remembered it wrong. But the idea of the Mandela effect is that, no, it used to be like that, but we jumped into a parallel universe without knowing it. And then now this is how Berenstain is spelled in this parallel universe. And so the name Mandela effect comes from the idea that you have a whole bunch of people in the world who believe that Nelson Mandela died in prison. And then you have a whole bunch of people that believe that he didn't. And the thought is that those people somehow jump timelines, and in their timeline, Nelson Mandela died in prison, but in our timeline, he did not, and that he died recently. So that's called the Mandela effect. If you've seen the X-Files revival, they have that joke, the Mingala effect. And they were like, hey, isn't it the Mandela effect? They're like, no. It's called the Mingala effect. But because of the Mingala effect, you're remembering it as the Mandela effect, which is little X-Files humor. So that's the Mandela effect. I don't know if I buy into it because I just think our memories just remember things weird. But people believe that the Mandela effect and all this quote unquote evidence of it happening is evidence that we jumped into some sort of alternate timeline and things changed, and our memories of these changed things are from the alternate universe, but everything's mostly the same except some little weird changes here and there. So that's the Mandela effect. Did the Simpsons predict that? Probably. Didn't they predict? Yeah. Everything. I do like The Simpsons. I haven't watched it in years, but there's just something, except lately. Lately, it sounds like it's weird, but yeah, predictive programming. It really seems like Stranger Things is some sort of predictive programming happening, or some sort of warning. So the third season of The Umbrella Academy just came out, and I believe it touches on these subjects. Definitely seems like some predictive programming there. And it's funny because the thing with predictive programming, or even writers that are warning us, it's, like, I lost that train of thought right as I was speaking it. It just completely derailed. Okay. But the thing with predictive programming is, you can look at the Umbrella Academy, putting these topics in there. And, you can say, oh, no, the writers just source the info from everybody talking about this. No, just because it's current events, it's not predictive programming. They're just sourcing it because this is a hot topic right now. But in actuality, no, that's just the perfect way to cover up the predictive programming. So like, and initially I didn't buy into the idea of predictive programming, but as more of this stuff starts coming true, it really, really starts to make me wonder. But also I do think that there might be some writers' rooms where people might know a lot and they want to warn us too. So I like to think that there's some warning going on and that it's not outright predictive programming, but maybe this optimistic thinking. But like the X-Files, it doesn't feel like predictive programming. It feels like a warning. So Bernstein was the common California pronunciation, whether false or true, probably limitations of kids' pronunciations. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't completely buy into the Bernstein being a Mandela effect, because I just think I messed it up as a kid. Another parallel universe is born with every coin flip. So is that kind of like the idea of Schrodinger's cat? And I want to reference it in my book, but I don't want to keep you guys waiting. I love this little book. But I love that. It sounds so like mystical. Bill Brockbrader. I had not heard of him. But now that I'm like in this rabbit hole, I will have to look him up. And no, you're not blocked. And sorry if I'm missing some I'm still going through all these chats. I'm almost caught up. Okay, so matter of fact, a Kugelblitz is created, which is basically a black hole that rips apart time in the universe. That's comforting. Oh gosh. There's so much with physics and quantum physics, and so much that could go wrong and so much that could go badly. And I understand like you shouldn't use those as limitations, but it seems like, it's good to know the limitations and the things that could potentially go wrong. Oh, okay, your comment wasn't going through. Okay. All right, so it looks like I am all okay. So that guy, Bill Brockbrader, he knew about timelines, convergences, etc., and he knew a lot. And it's interesting because I've heard that there's certain parts of our universe that have like very odd properties that almost look like it's like a border between parallel universes. Like it's the two alternate universes, the bubbles, because they say our universe might potentially be like a bubble. And it's like, they're bumping up against each other. And it's like it's just these weird energies and lights that kind of show up in parts of the universe. So he did 3 interviews on Project Camelot. Thank you so much for putting that in there. And so now it's up there so I can reference it later. Thank you. So predictive programming is an emergent property of characterization and world building. The more in-depth off-screen world building is, the more you'll find these predictions, particularly in sci-fi. Okay, I'm going to have to read this again to get this in my head. So it's an emergent of more in-depth off-screen world building is. Okay, so that it's just like a facet of writing, basically, and not asking permission for bad things in the future. Or is that just the conspiracy theory of it? So getting back into CERN and the weird stuff that goes on at CERN. Oh, also another excuse, and I thought it was interesting. How there's a lot of talk about, brownouts this summer and the power grid and this and that happening. We touched a little bit on it in this week's What's Ahead live stream. Where they're just, the governments are saying, the police are saying, get ready for blackouts, rolling blackouts, brownouts, this and that. And I know they like say that every summer, but like this year, they're like acting like it's some sort of really big deal. And like, we never have that in my area. And all of a sudden now I'm seeing generators, being installed in government buildings. There's like a push for that. So sorry. So, and there's the cops are pushing and the fact that something like that is coming. So it's really, it's really concerning. There's a lot of talk about this, and people believe that, and the powers that be would be happy with the grid getting shut down on, the folks like us, because we wouldn't be able to communicate with each other. They can do whatever they want to us, and we wouldn't be able to warn somebody across the country of what's happening. When you lose your communication, it weakens you. So it's a form of control, and because the grid wouldn't just be power, it would be everything, the cell phones, your communication lines, internet, everything. So people believe that CERN might be an excuse for shutting down the power grid. Like the power grid will go down. The powers that be will do that as a form of control, as part of the Great Reset. And, they need something to blame. Because, okay, if you do it over one country, then you could say, oh, it was an EMP, it was a cyber attack, it was this and that. But, it's kind of hard to scapegoat a cyber attack for a worldwide power grid shutdown. But what if they could blame CERN? Because everybody knows that there's big experiments happening at CERN that require a lot of energy. So what if they can use CERN as their scapegoat? Seems like a possibility, and it seems like a very good scapegoat. Okay, so predictive programming can be both. Good to know. Thank you for explaining that to me. Interesting thing. So outside CERN, so we've talked about like occultic rituals at CERN, at the CERN opening, at the opening of the underground tunnel, the Gothard Tunnel. Besides those ceremonies and occultic things that happen, even the imagery is very occultic. And not just occultic, just dark. So like there's outside CERN, there is a statue of Shiva, the Hindu god. And Shiva, the Hindu god, is like the destroyer. And Shiva in that statue is like, she's in he or she, I forget, what Shiva is, or Shiva they. Shiva's depicted in and forgive me if I'm butchering this, the Nataraja position. So there's a specific, hand and foot position that's happening in that. And that position is the cosmic dance that destroys the old universe in favor for the new universe. That's so symbolic. And don't tell me it's just because it's pretty and they wanted, Shiva out there, or that they're all Hindu and they were honoring Shiva. No, I don't buy that. So putting Shiva in the cosmic dance that destroys the old universe in favor of the new universe kind of sounds like parallel universes and alternate dimensions, right? Like some sort of portal opening up, our universe collapsing on itself, some sort of new universe coming. That's a little dark, and that's a little telling, right? I mean, I think that just like, that was mind blowing when I read that. It was just completely, I'm like, no, it's like they're mocking us. They're like, haha, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to put the statue out of here. And you all aren't going to understand what's happening. And if you figure it out, we're going to call you conspiracy theorists. They're just constantly mocking us, aren't they? So the governments are great at creating the problem to sell us a solution via, we need to print more money. Exactly. There's so many, there's so many different things I can say about that. But yeah, look, they're always creating a crisis, to take away our rights, to take, put emergency powers on. If you give them, like, let's take COVID, for example. Whether you believe that's man-made, whether you believe it was real, it doesn't matter, because if you look at what happened, people willingly gave their rights over to the government. So which makes the government go, oh, wow, look how easily the people were willing to give over their rights. Maybe we can create another crisis so that, we'll create it this time so that people will hand over even more of their rights. So the government creates the problem to sell us the solution. Always. If you look at it throughout history, you can always see problem, solution. Look at Lyme disease. It's believed that Lyme disease was made by the government. There's a lot of evidence for it. And then it got released into the public. Okay, it seems like it could have been accidentally that it was released into the public, but we know the government and the pharmaceutical industry are in bed together. So government creates Lyme disease, and the pharmaceutical industry benefits off of it, right? Same concept. They turned off the pyramids. Did powers that be turned off the pyramids? Who turned off the pyramids? Because I know that people do believe that there's a lot of like energy, that it's like a factory, that there's energy creation involved with the pyramids. Exactly. Yeah. Just like, so, yeah, there's right. Because don't they believe that like Bill Gates created the first viruses, and that way he was able to sell software for it? Crazy. So I think Shiva is actually a duality kind of god, like a man or woman, creator and destroyer, etc. Typical as above, so below. Okay. So they want to represent the duality there. So creation and destruction. But then, okay, Shiva, like you said, is a duality kind of god. But it just also seems kind of dark. Okay, so creation is happening there. They're creating the Higgs boson particle. So then what is the destruction aspect? So either way, it's dark. So even if it's duality, like, is it talking about that there is the potential for destruction at CERN, or that they will actually create tools of destruction at CERN? But yeah, either way you unpack that, it's not nice imagery for CERN. And that would be a reason to turn off the grid, right? They don't want that communication happening. They don't like that. They want control over it. And we see governments trying to find ways to seize control over the government. Doesn't China have certain ways of blocking the internet? North Korea, if you're even allowed to have internet, has ways of restricting internet. We see that constantly. And now, we would look at that and be like, oh, well, how insane is that? Stuff like that will never happen. And now we kind of see certain odd controls being exerted over the internet in certain ways. And I know you can say, okay, these websites are private and the censorship, they can do whatever they want, but it kind of starts to look like the censorship they have in these countries, just through private means. But I guess, we live in a capitalistic society, so a lot of bad things that come out of the government can come through the private sector. I don't know what that means. But now I'm fascinated. I'm like, what does it mean? So the same message in Luciferianism and Satanism. Okay, the duality, the creation and destruction duality. Ooh, that's creepy. So, alrighty. So CERN. Okay, so we got Shiva sitting outside CERN. Okay, gotcha. The Hegelian dialectic. So we got Shiva sitting outside CERN. Interestingly, okay, we had said earlier that CERN is is I guess an acronym for the French version of what was it? For the French version in English, we call it the European Organization for Nuclear Research. In France, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it in French. It's been too long since I've taken French. But in French, it's the Center European for Research Nuclear. So that's what they tell us CERN means. But there's also a belief that CERN is short for the Celtic god Cernunnos, the horned one. And that Celtic god is the god of the underworld. And he's believed to have been summoned by CERN occultists at that Gothard rail tunnel opening ceremony. So, and I think we've mentioned it before. You can go onto YouTube, you can look up CERN opening ceremonies, you can look up the Gothard rail tunnel opening ceremony. They seem to look very occultic, and they want to call it art. And, art is art, but that to me does look like an occultic ceremony. And so the god of the underworld, they believed that they were summoned by the CERN occultist at this ceremony. So that's a further concern, right? And then CERN, once you start pulling the occult into it and pulling all this dark stuff into it, it becomes like, if you look at CERN just as a whole and you don't pay too much attention to it, it's like, oh, CERN is pretty cool. There's some amazing science happening there, right? Like, wow, this can propel the future of science and our understanding of the universe forward so much. But, that's what it looks like on the outside, right? That's how they're presenting themselves. Once you start looking at the occult, once you start looking at the occultic ceremonies, if you're doing science, you don't really need to involve the occult like that. You don't need to summon things. So people believe that they're trying to open a vortex, open a portal, open, something to another dimension. And in certain, religious beliefs, a lot of people believe that other dimensions are, where you find evil. So that they're going to open this thing to allow evil to come back and forth into our world. And that's their true intention, which would start making a lot of sense when you look at the occultic ceremonies happening. Yeah, 100%. So creepy. And I'm actually going to pull up something from the Book of Revelation that sounds just like CERN. Just realized CERN is located within the word Luciferian. I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, so okay, so not exactly in line, but you can pull out the words. You know what? And this is probably all intentional. I feel like it's in your face, so that it is a way for them to mock us, here we're gonna put it right there in front of you, and you aren't gonna figure it out because you're too dumb. Yeah, exactly. They want to open a stargate. They want to open doorways into these other dimensions, or a God gate. Sometimes it's referred to. Have you seen Angels and Demons? It's about that dark antimatter you talked about. No, I haven't seen it yet. So it's, what is it, a documentary? And it talks about antimatter and dark matter and relates it to that. That sounds interesting. That sounds up my alley. So Bill Brockbader talks about stargates. Okay, Project Looking Glass and Yellow Box, etc. Okay, this guy sounds really interesting. The more and more I hear about him. Thank you for bringing him up. Bill Brockbader. Okay, so I want to pull something up now from the Book of Revelation. I should have it right here. Let me make sure I'm on the right page. Okay. Nope, sorry. Give me a moment. Okay, so where in Revelation is this? So this is in the Book of Revelation, chapter 9. This is the start of chapter 9. And it says, and the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to earth, and he was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. He opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, and from the shaft rose smoke like the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened with the smoke from the shaft. Then from the smoke came locusts on the earth, and they were given power like the power of scorpions from the earth. And then it goes on to describe the torment, the abyss that's going to be opened up on the earth, and the torment that's going to come out from it, and just torment people. How many? I think it says 5 months. They were allowed to torment for 5 months, but not to kill them. And their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it stings someone. And in those days, people will seek death and will not find it. They will long to die, but death will flee from them. And then we go on towards the end. So this is, and I'm pulling bits and pieces from it just to shorten it. But if you want to go and read it, it's Revelation chapter 9, verses 1 through 11. And then it ends with, they have as king over them, the angel of the bottomless pit. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek he is called Apollyon. So when they said, a fallen star fell from heaven to earth, that's like a fallen angel, it sounds like they're describing, and then was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. So it really does sound like CERN. And there's people who have done research into this and where it's supposed to happen. And they said it kind of does from what they see. And I'm having trouble wrapping my head around it because I just skimmed their explanation for this. But they were able to kind of figure out that it seems to kind of coordinate with with that area of Europe where they think this bottomless pit is going to happen. And conveniently, CERN happens to be in that area. When we talk about CERN potentially opening up portals or stargates or God gates, I mean, this sounds like it. The fallen angel falling to earth into the bottomless pit, and out of this bottomless pit comes torment. That sounds like some real upside down type portal, Stranger Things, the upside down. So it is just... Sorry, I got distracted here. Okay. Yeah. So it almost kind of shows that maybe CERN is this thing that's connected with the end times, that is connected with the with the end of the world. And it kind of sounds like it, like, it just seems dark. It doesn't seem like a normal scientific investigation. There's more to the story happening there. And when you start connecting it with the book of Revelation and everything that happens, then you start seeing how everything lines up and everything seems perfect in this. And there was something else I saw in that article that I want to pull out of it. And okay, interestingly, so at the end of this, it said they have his king over them, the angel of the bottomless pit. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek, he is called Apollyon. So this article said both Apollyon and Abaddon, both of these names mean the destroyer, just like Shiva is the destroyer, and the statue of Shiva is outside of CERN. And these gods, these fallen angels that come out of the pit, that comes out of the portal that's opened by CERN, intend to set up a new world order on the ash heap of the old, on the backs of us. And yeah, I mean, there's so much in this article. I think I should put the link in the description. You know what? And I will put the link in the chat right now. But it's interesting because, this idea of opening up a portal, opening up a parallel universe, and evil comes out of it seems so far-fetched. But there's actually a quote from a CERN scientist that talks about opening up portals to other worlds. So here is the article I found on this. And I guess it comes from somebody's book, somebody that did research on this. So I found something on Twitter, and there's this quote here. And I didn't have a chance to try to verify it, but when I kind of started searching a little bit, I didn't see anything that didn't verify this guy. But Sergio Bertolucci is the director for research and scientific computing at CERN. And he has a quote that he said, "Out of this door might come something, and we might send something through it." So to me, if this is legit, if this is a real quote, it shows that they're not just looking for the Higgs boson. They're not just trying to create dark matter. They're trying to do something more. They're legit trying to create a portal. It's a conspiracy theorist thing, that they try to, it's the conspiracy theorist. It's a conspiracy theory. But we're living in times where so many quote unquote conspiracy theories actually end up being truth and actually end up fact and proven in a really short amount of time. So really, are conspiracy theories that far-fetched anymore? And there's an interesting quote here by some guy named David Deutsch. And he says, "Quantum computation will be the first technology that allows useful tasks to be performed in collaboration between parallel universes." And when we talked earlier about the grid, this supercomputing system that is trying to be put in place by CERN, I know that's not quantum computing, but it kind of seems like it could be a precursor to that. So they're saying that this grid system is just so they can better store and process information, right? But what if that is their way of trying to develop a supercomputer? And why do they need a supercomputer? But to communicate between parallel universes, to get info back and forth between there. Because, if you open up a portal doorway, I doubt radio waves or cell phone waves are going to go through there. But just absolute insanity. It's so crazy. Now, I usually don't talk about this stuff outside of the internet. I talk about it with you guys because I know you guys are into this on the same page, but I try to act normal in real life. I try. I hope I come across as normal, but we'll see. Your friends and family. Yeah, that's why I just keep it zipped. I try to keep it zipped in real life because people just, it's like sorry, the angle of this camera is annoying me so much. But it's like, what did they say? I lost my train of thought as I was saying that. But, oh yeah, it's like that whole fluoride stare thing. They're like, people just can't wrap their heads around this. Everybody's like, so, people are taught not to think for themselves anymore, to just accept what's being fed to them by the government, by media, by the teachers, whatever. So people don't even have the capacity to talk about this. So that's why it's easy to just go, for them to go, conspiracy theorist, you're crazy, But really, they just don't want to think for themselves, because that would you'd have to actually exert some effort and think for yourself, which is, oh my gosh, nobody's trained to do that anymore. You're trained to think inside the box now. It'd be funny if their plan backfires and it actually opens the door to usher in the New Jerusalem or Jesus. I'm sure then they would say that as the enemy, maybe the start of the Armageddon. True, because they're not on the side of good. So if you were to bring, if I guess in the end, so there's thought that out of this pit, out of will come the spirit of the Antichrist will come out of this pit, because doesn't it also say that the Antichrist comes from the endless sea or something? So so either way, it ushers in the return of Jesus if you're a Christian, right? So even if bad stuff comes out of CERN, that just means that Jesus is coming soon. And you know what? But it's true. If it backfires and instead of ushering it in the Antichrist, they something good comes out of CERN, then they will try to spin it. Just like we talked about last week, Project Bluebeam, where they want to use our beliefs about the return of Christ against us, and will fake the second coming of Christ to be able to manipulate us, and those of us who know, where the Bible says you have to test every spirit will know that it's fake, but some people will be deceived from it. But they'll definitely try to spin it whatever the way they could. Exactly. Why be normal? It's so much fun to just I don't know, to not be full of fluoride and like everybody else. I was actually just talking about that with my mom. It was like we were driving somewhere today, and I'm like, curiosity, human curiosity, it's so stifled. When we're little, that's a natural thing to be curious, but it gets stifled along the way, whether it's from your family, whether it's from teachers trying to get you to think inside the box. We lose that over time. And so many adults, even kids, they don't want to learn anything because I don't know, they think learning and knowledge and curiosity is tedious, but it's not. It's amazing, and it's so fun to be able to investigate these things. So when you say why be normal, exactly, because to me normal is not being, if you look at the norm today, it's not being curious, right? The norm is people aren't curious, nobody's inquisitive, so it's more fun this way. It's just be investigating the world, suspicious of everything, kind of testing every idea. Exactly. So why be normal? 5150, I don't know what that is. It sounds like a secret code. Sorry, you'll have to tell me what that is. I don't know what that is. Oh, okay. So Angels and Demons is that book, okay, by Dan Brown. I saw you guys discussing it earlier. So, yeah, fluoride is industrial waste. They try to pass off as good for your teeth. Meanwhile, the studies showed that fluoride in your water does not actually help your teeth. It doesn't. Because there are people with good teeth who are not exposed to fluoride that have well water. So fluoride in water, it's been proved that it does not help your teeth at all. So why put fluoride in the water? Why put this industrial waste in the water if it doesn't do that? Oh, because it's bad for your pineal gland. It's bad for your brain. It's bad for, the pineal gland is believed to be involved with spirituality. They don't want us to be spiritual, and it calcifies your pineal gland, aka your third eye. And you look at it, and it's a toxin because it's industrial waste, and they're putting it in there to hurt us, to destroy us, but to control us. Because I've heard high enough levels of fluoride subdue people. They make people more complacent and calm. And it's in toothpaste. It's everywhere. It's in all these products. Some of your mouthwashes have it. And you know what? Knock on wood, I don't want my teeth to fall out after I say this, but don't be afraid not to use fluoride products. I do not use products with fluoride, and everything is all good so far, knock on wood, so it's a scam. Fluoride's a scam. Yes, exactly. I love that meme so much. Hey GTO, nice to see you here tonight. Thanks for joining us. Oh, okay, man, I'm sorry that happened to you. See, some people, they can't take that. They can't tolerate that outside of, the box thinking, and they want to think that, I don't know that, but you know what? And it's not them, it's they've been conditioned by the government, by media and everything, that these people are such drones that when they see anybody acting differently, then the assumption is, oh, what a psycho, look at this crazy conspiracy theorist. And that's purposeful, to kind of put people that think outside the box, people that challenge the narrative, on the outside so that they have less power. It's a form of control. Gosh, man. Good. I am so glad they exposed your family. And I hope you got far away from them. Yes, and we are glad you're here. Yeah, exactly. They want to close our third eye. And I know that sounds like airy-fairy, but some people are like, oh, third eye, pineal gland. But it, as humans, if we are spiritual beings. And I always say this every time, because I always say that I view things through the lens of Christianity. That's my belief. But my belief is that, we were made to be spiritual beings, or we are spiritual beings in a meat suit, and we are made to be in communion with our creator. And, as humans, we have certain things. And yes, the soul is spiritual, but we also have things in our body to connect the physical and the spiritual. And the belief is that the pineal gland, which is nicknamed the third eye, is there to be able to facilitate that connection. And unfortunately, when you have too much fluoride in your system, it calcifies the pineal gland. But I've heard that there are ways to decalcify and to detoxify your pineal gland. But once you start calcifying your pineal gland, then you start inhibiting your spirituality, your ability to be spiritual, and to be in communion with God. And yes, I understand, our God is a great God. He can overcome that. But that just makes things harder for us, having that calcified pineal gland. But if you think about it, everything's intentional from these people, from the powers that be. Because you know what? If you are able to calcify that pineal gland, it's like another form of control. Was it Karl Marx who said religion is the opiate of the masses? So people like that, people who are in control of political systems, they don't like religion. Okay, there's the belief that, oh, good, it's an opiate, it kind of keeps us suppressed, it keeps us down. That's what Karl Marx believed. But for other people, it's a threat, because you're able to discern between good and evil, and you could tell that your government's doing evil. So they want to kind of mess with that. And what better way than fluoride in everything? Yeah, just like the milk does a body good propaganda by the government and dairy companies. 78% of the population cannot digest milk. It contains zinc, which strips calcium from the bones. There you go. Like, so many things are intentional. And the thing is, I don't think milk naturally has high levels of zinc in it. Milk is fortified, and that fortification has the potential, depending on the concentrations, to strip things from your body. Like, it's also fortified with vitamin D, and I forget what kind of vitamin D they fortify it with. But vitamin D, while that's a great thing for you, if you're not careful with the way you take it, that also has the potential to strip minerals from your body too. So, everything that you look at is a way to poison us. Yes, bottled water is fantastic, but the plastic, when it's getting delivered to you, it's getting heated up in the trucks and it's leaching into your water, heated up, because they're driving down hot roads. These don't come out of refrigerated trucks. And then it also degrades if it's sitting in the sun, in a store window. You're going to get the photo degradation of the plastic, and just, water that sits over time in plastic starts degrading. I mean, you sometimes notice if you have a water bottle that's been sitting too long, it doesn't taste that good, So you see that there's constant poisoning, but yet this is being pushed as so healthy and so good, but it's an endocrine disruptor. And I think, and BPAs in plastics. Okay, this might not have BPA. I think this might be BPA free. It doesn't say so, but I don't know, maybe it's not. But BPA was invented as a way to increase the estrogen in your body. So they're marketing this toward everybody. So it's an endocrine disruptor. If you're a woman, this will completely screw with your hormones. If you're a man, this will put more estrogen in your body drinking out of plastic. I hate drinking out of plastic, but sometimes it happens. But yet they're pushing it like, oh, it's so much healthier than tap water. Yes, spring water is healthier than tap water. But spring water is best off harvested from a spring into a glass bottle, not into this plastic, So here's more poisoning of us. Same thing here. You have a can. Okay, cool. You're drinking out of metal. Isn't that great? No, there's a liner. Yeah, it's supposedly BPA free. But if you were to take something to dissolve the metal, you will have a plastic liner left over. So everything is just, an attack on our system, our body, by the powers that be. Screwing with your hormones leads to infertility. That's population control. Beer is like, I think I had retweeted something about this on Twitter, and beer is heavily marketed toward men. Yes, I know men and women drink beer, but it's heavily marketed toward men as being a more masculine drink. But beer tends to mess with men's hormones. Especially if something's really hoppy, like an IPA, a lot of men will get man boobs from it because of the high estrogen levels, and yet it's being heavily marketed and pushed because you start putting too much estrogen in men, you're going to affect fertility and you're going to potentially cause cancers. So, everything starts to look intentional past a point. But that was my little rant with that. Yeah, and we're the only mammal that drinks milk from another species. Yes, and we're the only animal that drinks milk past weaning, too. So, yeah, milk is kind of, and I know in some natural health circles, they believe raw milk is good in certain cases and does certain things. I'm not a fan of milk, but if you look at milk, regardless of how you feel about it, it's very heavily marketed and pushed as something good and something healthy. And, wherever there's heavy marketing, that makes me suspicious. Exactly. We talk about the pharmaceutical industry corruption. It's believed that there is a cure for cancer and that there is a cure for so many things, but they make more money treating cancer and keeping people sick for a long time. Think about how many rounds of chemo people go through. Okay, if you were able to cure cancer in one shot like this, yeah, they'd make the money off of that one quick treatment, but they would lose all the radiation money, all the chemo money. And then, everything turns into other things. You get nauseous from chemo, then, you can sell the anti-nausea medicine to people. With chemo, then you make the money off having a port put into your body and so forth and so on. And it's just constant. But, as long as there's corruption in the pharmaceutical industry, as long as all this is a moneymaker, you're never going to see the cures because the cures aren't profitable. And there are so many cures to be found in nature, but it's not profitable, so you'll never see them. Kind of like shrooms, psilocybin, cures untreatable depression, but you'll never see it being used because you know what? If you were to take psilocybin a short amount of time and you're completely fine and you don't need to take it again, first of all, it's found in nature. You can grow it on your own. So there's not a lot of money to be made for them from that. And they can't really patent it unless they kind of like change it slightly. But then, you know what? There's more money to be made keeping you on antidepressants and anti-anxiety and so forth and so on for years. And then whatever therapy treatments, everything else, it's just constant moneymaker. Oh, your family's 3,000 miles away. Good for you. Sounds like good people to stay away from. But if you're Christian, I would suggest pray for your enemies anyway, for a change of heart. Not to tell you what to do. That's what I would do. Only a theory until proven. Conspiracy theory, right? And we see all those conspiracy theories coming true. Hey, Hexagon Contractor, I'm glad you're able to make it tonight. So check out Edward Bernays on fluoridation if you haven't yet. King of propaganda. Ooh. I am willing to deep dive onto fluoride. As you guys can tell, I am very curious about it. It's so true. Everything we're taught in schools. And, we had spoken about this the other night on the What's Ahead live stream. schools are government facilities. The government hasn't done good for people in a very long time. They're constantly lying to us. They're constantly trying to make money off of us. So why would you then take your children and then hand them over to the government so the government could educate them? Because what is the government going to do? They are going to mold the minds in a way that's most convenient to them. They're like government indoctrination facilities. So I don't like the idea of handing your children over to the government, because at that point, your kid, let's say, is in school from 8 to 3, and then so how much time do you have home with them? They're going to be doing homework or sports for another couple hours. So what do you get? Like 3 hours of quality time with them in the evening. So the government has spent more time with your children. So then who's going to have like the most influence on your children? Your 3 hours of time in the evening, or that full day, 5 days a week from the government? So and that's why you start now seeing, especially now, like these really radicalized kids with such different values from their parents. And I think that's the goal. Sorry, I'm behind. Let me catch up. Oh, but now you made me curious. You want to say something about Marx, Lenin, and Stalin, but you'll refrain. Okay. And the Bolsheviks? Oh, the Bolsheviks are fascinating. Yeah, okay, there you go. Your mom had stage 3 lung cancer. I hope she's better now. Went through all the chemo and radiation, $8,000 per round of chemo. And imagine if the cure is $500. What motivation? And these people are all living large. What motivation would they ever have to hand you over the $500 cure? And it's evil. It's outright evil. And it shows that, all these pharmaceuticals, people, they're not doing this because they care about people and they want to help people. It's all about the money. And listen, I'm not knocking it entirely. There are good things to come out of this. There are lives that are saved, but there's a lot of darkness that happens in it too. It's like, yeah, it's good and bad, but it seems like a lot more bad in it. So your brother microdoses and it's changed his life. Yeah, I've heard people that microdose on this, like their anxiety's gone, their depression's gone, that it's had some incredible effects. Because the thing is, like, a lot of these depression meds, anti-anxiety meds, antipsychotics, they're almost like they're masking. They're never actually curing. They're just masking the symptoms. They say that psilocybin actually has the potential to regrow neural pathways in your brain. So it's legit bringing back your brain, which makes me wonder what its applications could be in Alzheimer's, dementia. People like to say, no, it's not enough regrowth. But what if you're able to hit it early? Could you make a difference? And could you start healing things up, before it gets that bad? But we'll never know, because you want to know what? Nursing homes make a ton of money. People with Alzheimer's and dementia, a lot of them are medicated up the wazoo to keep them calm and to keep them more manageable. Yeah, nursing homes, like around here, I think they're like 12,000 more than 12,000 a month. And that's just for your most basic care. So if you need somebody with a lot more care and a lot more help, like memory care, somebody with dementia, then you're going to be paying more. And this is per month. So and then, add all the medications on top of it, every other treatment you have to do. And they're all maintenance treatments for, or maybe not even maintenance. Would you call it palliative? I don't know. But it's just like all keeping these people comfortable, but not just comfortable. Unfortunately, since it's all a business, they understaff the nursing homes to make their profit margins larger, and they end up over medicating the people and medicating them with things that they don't even need, just to keep them sedated the whole time so that you don't have to do anything for them. So there's so much money in that, versus psilocybin. You can grow it in your backyard. If that's the cure for it, we'll never know. Because also all the medical research, notice who it's funded by. Pharmaceutical industries. The pharmaceutical industry is funding medical research. And people are like, oh, no, but the scientists are still impartial. I don't know. If they're getting all that money, how impartial can you be? But yeah, and they sell you mandatory health insurance. They're all in bed together. The world's sick. And then interestingly, if you go to the doctor, there's certain things about the doctors and you know, like they say physicals are actually useless. They don't actually find anything. And it's just like a money suck too. It's interesting if you go research physicals and the purpose of them and whether they actually do anything. So lead and gasoline was the worst. 50 years of increased birth defects, decreased intelligence, crime wave, etc. Now I'm going down 20 years after lead was taken out of the gas. And you know what? The gas industry probably fought to have it covered up and paid people off. And, you know, the government went along with it because of all that money that's in there. Yeah, imagine actually learning in school. Yeah, no, never going to happen. Not anymore. Imagine all the lies they propagated about 9/11 to our kids. Yeah. And, you know, I was a kid in school when 9/11 happened, and we were listening to it on the radio in the classroom and everything that was fed to us, but not just us as kids, like, you know, through the media, or my parents too. You know, we all were fed something about 9/11, and especially living here in the New York area and seeing the aftermath in the families of, you know, of what happened. It was easy to get sucked into it. And then when you start really uncovering things and peeling things back and you start realizing nothing about 9/11 makes sense, you know, it's mind-boggling. But yeah, you keep the kids in the schools, then you could keep them from questioning stuff like this. Yeah, I have to say, you can learn anything on YouTube nowadays. Yeah, government benefits from keeping the kids dumb. Yes, because if you have dumb kids, you end up with the dumb population when they grow up and they're compliant. They don't ask questions. They go along with what they're told. And we've seen the dangers of compliance throughout history. And we've seen how insane people have been with compliance lately, too. Okay. Okay, I'm almost there. Almost caught up. Oh, that's really cool. Thank you. Very kind of you. Listen, you can tell I'm an extrovert. I love talking to people. I'm willing to talk to whoever. So thank you. Almost caught up. Yeah, media is the fifth arm of the government. There was wasn't there there used to be a law saying you cannot do propaganda in the media, and was it Obama who dropped that law and now it's legal? So, you know, propaganda in the media is legal. And nobody knows that. People watch the news like, you know, like it's actual facts and unbiased. And it's interesting because you actually have seen a change in the news since then. Was it Bush or Obama? I feel like it dropped during the Obama administration. Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. If you ask questions of conspiracy theories, no questions allowed. Yeah. So many useful idiots. That's just where we're at nowadays. And, you know, everybody's brain just seems so numb to everything nowadays. And you know, like I said, you're seeing a compliant. Okay, we've seen the dangers of compliance in the past, and like look at World War II and what happened with compliance and people keeping their mouth shut and people going along with everything. Very dangerous situation. And so if you are educating people to be compliant, to be like drones in a school, to be worker bees, you keep falling into that same pattern throughout history over and over again. And like I said, we've seen the insanity of compliance lately. Like, you know, like the fact that people will flip out on somebody that's their friend just because they like are you know, going up against the narrative because they don't believe in that. And people are just losing their minds over it, you know, because you have somebody who's completely compliant and then somebody else who dares to ask a question. And the people who dare ask questions are completely villainized. And, you know, we, like I said, we see throughout history the problems in that. And, you know, we never learn from history. We keep repeating it. So it's like, where is this going to lead us in the future? But they do want that. And also, we look at school curriculums. I believe the Rockefellers had a big hand in developing school curriculums. Because why? Because they wanted easy, you know, drone worker bees that'll just go along and provide a wonderful, easy workforce. So that is what our curriculum is geared toward. And if we look, the schools are kind of like factories that are putting out little drone bees to, to go off into society and do what they're supposed to do. No questions asked. Like, we're there. But, and I don't think schools are ever going to return. I had tweeted that you're living in a fairy tale land if you think schools are ever going to turn around, because they're government facilities, So as long as the government is corrupt and evil, then schools, like the media being an arm of the government, then schools are just going to be just as corrupt and evil. And, people like to think, well, it's on a local level. We can go in and we can affect change and, go into our school council meetings or whatever and fight. And I'm like, yeah, so much of this is for show. It'll only go so far, because you can't change state curriculum. And you can't control what teachers teach in the classroom. They might say, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to say this. But, when they're in there, they can say or do anything. So, when you hire a babysitter, people usually really look into babysitters and they background check them and want to make, and call the references or anything. But think about when you put your children in school, you don't know anything about that teacher. You just spent more time background checking your babysitter than you did investigating your teacher. You just trusting the government that they put somebody safe in there and somebody that's good. But from my experience, and I used to be a teacher, most teachers are pretty unhinged. There's something about education. Maybe it's a control thing. Maybe it's a God complex that attracts very unhinged people. And, and I've been on the receiving end of that unhingedness on multiple occasions. Like, they do not behave like normal people. And if this behavior happened anywhere else in the workforce, it would not fly. But yet this flies, and things like this fly in schools. And you are willingly putting your child into this. Like, you really need to step back and kind of look at it and listen. And I'm not trying to be nasty. I'm not trying to be rude over, what you're into, what you believe, but you really need to really step back and figure out your options. And I know not every parent can stay home and homeschool. But people now are making ways for that to happen. Homeschool groups, like cooperatives. Okay. You can't, you have to work and you're a single parent. You can't contribute to the teaching, but I can contribute in other ways while another parent is teaching your kid. And I think, and we had talked about this a lot in the last stream, what's ahead. I think I'll just I'll make this its own stream, but basically it's an extension of the government. So it's another tool of control. It's harder when you're old enough to have seen the cycles repeat. And it's sad, like, when you go on the internet and you see the warnings from the older people who are like, I saw this happen and I'm seeing it again. It must be hard, like the fact that you thought you got away from it and that things are better and we fall back into it. And one of the people that I think have most kind of struck me about this is whose words have struck me about this, Kitty Worthman. I'm going to put her name in the chat. And if you look her up on YouTube, she lived in Germany during World War II, and she was a Gentile in Germany. And she would tell about what she witnessed, the changes in the country that happened, that led toward everything going down. And she will compare it to other things going on in the world. So she's really interesting, very prophetic. Had a chance to see her speak in person, and I'll never forget that. But it's that same thing, old enough to have seen the cycles repeat. So before the Department of Education, we have gun classes and went to the shooting range. I had student taught in an all boys high school, and in the basement they had old shooting ranges that were just used for storage, that I guess they used to have 22s and just go planking in the basement with practicing some marksmanship. And that's wild. It's amazing because, I know it's so demonized, but people forget, like, marksmanship is an Olympic sport. It's legit a sport. And teaching these type of things is also teaching gun safety. So when a kid comes across one, that they know what to do. They know how to handle it in the sense of, okay, yeah, they know to go get an adult and not touch things, but they also know how dangerous it is to, to actually touch it. They have an understanding of what to do. So it actually makes kids safer, but I'll stop there before I get anybody angry. But so, yeah. So, I mean, and there's so much more to research and talk about CERN. Like, so I feel like I just skimmed the surface on CERN, but thank you guys for just coming in and for chatting about it and for being into this and listening. Like, sometimes I'm like, I wonder if I should dig in more and do like a part 2 sometime, like towards the end of the month. But I would definitely check out that website I posted. And I want to make sure I didn't miss out any other certain things that I wanted to share. But yeah, but anyway, July 5th, it's starting back up. Be aware, be vigilant, see what's going on. People are saying it's going to be some sort of energy shift, some sort of vortex. I don't know, but whatever it is, doesn't sound safe. It doesn't sound good. It sounds like they're trying to open up that abyss from Revelation. Yeah. Isn't it wild how fast things change? Like, it just, like, Project Appleseed teaches how that, like, back during the American Revolution, almost every person had basic marksmanship skills. And I forget that there was a certain thing that they were all able to do at a certain amount of yards. And it really, I would look up Project Appleseed. It's a really cool organization that really seeks to combine history with this knowledge of marksmanship and teach the two of it together. I think they still exist, so Project Appleseed. But yeah, it used to be a universal thing, and then now it's not. Because when it's not, you have an easier to control population. Yeah, you know what? Any day is always a good day to get right with God, because you never know. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. The Bible says, that we're not guaranteed tomorrow. I could walk out of this room and I don't know, my house could collapse, anything could happen to any of us at any moment. So I would always get right with God, but especially, man, when we start talking Revelation and seeing how much this lined up with Revelation, I would certainly say I'm with you before July 5th. So thank you for saying that, Andrew. Yeah, exactly. What could possibly go wrong with CERN? So maybe it's a Crypto Heartbeat and Rag's announcement on Independence Day at high noon. Oh, there is. Oh, I did hear about that announcement. Isn't that interesting that it's a day before CERN? Are they going to say that they're now partnered with CERN? Oh, this is true. Anytime in history that there's been a mass genocide, usually there's a disarming that happens. It's happened, I think, Cambodia. It's happened in Germany. It always, slaughter always seems to follow disarming. And that's why okay, I know not every situation, but many of the mass genocides, look what happened right before. So thank you so much for bringing that up, Ada. That's why you don't 5555. You can die at any time. That's say something, but it is fun to have a 5555. If you can too, just balance it out. Okay, so they're going to be live streaming their announcement. Yeah, so make sure to catch Crypto Heartbeat and Rag's announcement on Independence Day at noon. That is quite a day to be announcing it. So, well, I'm going to hop off. Thank you guys for being here. Anything else somebody wants to add before I go? Should we do another? Oh, yeah, maybe. What's it called? Is it an after action report of July 5th after action report? Are we still here, after the run 3 started? And run 3, I think, is going to last 2 to 3 years. So it's not just like they're turning it on and doing something. They're going to be running in a while. Yeah, thank you guys for being here. It was nice seeing you all. We had some nice numbers tonight. So thank you, everybody, whether you were lurking, whether you were in the chat. Thank you guys for making the chat hopping. I had so much fun discussing CERN with you all. And let me tell you, when CERN first started up, I was like really anxious about it. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then now that there's more talk of portals and everything, I'm like, oh, I guess I was right to be concerned and nervous about it. Right? So thank you. You guys are so awesome. Thank you for being here. And thank you for listening to me go on and on and on. I had so much fun talking some particle physics. That's probably the extent of particle physics I will ever be learning, because I don't plan on going back to school and studying physics. So you guys have a good night. Have a great Independence Day if you're here in the United States. Have a safe Independence Day. Don't blow your fingers off. Don't drink too much. Be ready for, with your good energy and your prayers for July 5th. Get right with God, like how Andrew said, and have fun this weekend. I know it always seems so negative in the world, like the world is collapsing and everything. And yeah, I know a lot of people kind of get depressed, and it does seem pretty dark, but here's the thing, even in the midst of bad times, we have to find our good. We still have to live our life in certain ways. Even if we're living it differently, let's find the good in everything and the happy in everything. Like this is like some really disturbing times we're living in. But, there's always things to find joy in. So find your joy in it. And and just push those negative thoughts out of your head. Like, I know this is kind of like a downer, the CERN thing, but you know what, think of all the good that's out there. If you feel like people are waking up, that's a good thing to focus on. If you feel like you're waking up, cool, keep digging and diving farther down the rabbit hole. Start decalcifying your pineal gland. Start taking those plastics out. Little changes, little by little. And I know we're heading in a dark direction, it seems like, but whatever, we're going to make the best of it, right? And let's get ourselves healthy in the process so that we're ready for whatever comes. So thank you guys. Have a great 4th of July. I am so glad to all of you who made it in tonight. And for anybody who's going to catch the replay, thank you. If you're not subbed, I'd appreciate that, but really enjoy that. And I'd appreciate the like. Thank you guys so much. I love you all, and you have a wonderful night and a happy International UFO Day. I wish I had my little alien I left on my bookshelf there. I should have marched him across the screen. All right. Have a good night, guys. Bye. And don't let the aliens bite.